Welcome to episode 69 of Reading Between the Reels. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're a new listener, we're so glad you found us. If you've been enjoying the show, please tell someone about us. Send a tweet, post to Facebook, write a review on your favorite podcast catcher, or just recommend the show to a friend. I'm Craig Dickinson, and I'm joined tonight by Corey Heidschmidt.
Hello, everybody.
And we have two special guest co-hosts tonight. First off, we have Corey's son, Jude. What's up, Jude?
What's up?
And my son, Jaden, is here tonight to talk.
Hello.
That's right, fellas. And here we're talking. Corey, what are we talking about? There's I forget what are we talking about?
Now listen, we are talking about Transformers, yes. Okay? And you thought we brought in kids to be the experts? No. I'm the expert. I've been looking forward to this one for years. This right here is the whole reason I'm here.
Yes. Fantastic. So, Corey, I'm going to start off with you then. Overall thoughts on Transformers, the movie. Not Transformers, the movie. The 2007 Michael Bay Transformers movie.
The 2007 Michael Bay. Craig, I still remember the time I was in the theater. I was watching a movie. The Transformers trailer dropped. And I did not know about that trailer. I was so excited. I don't even remember what movie I watched. I remember I couldn't think about that movie. I was so excited. It was my dream come true. It's Transformers, the movie. I was pumped. I was on board right away. I absolutely love this movie. Absolutely love this. And I know Transformers through the Bayverse has kind of gotten some ups and downs, but I'm going to tell you, here's the thing. I grew up with Transformers. I loved the cartoons as a kid. Optimus was my hero. Bumblebee's my best buddy kind of thing. You know, it's just they all have their own character. And then to see them come into a real live action role like this with CGI was just tremendous. Everything about this movie brought in a perfect blend of nostalgia with modern steps, modern writing and designs and dynamics. And so I think Michael Bay absolutely stuck the landing on this movie. Got it going, got the start for a Transformers franchise to get going into the movies. It needed to happen. He redesigned some things, which always sets some people off, the people who are the diehard comic fans and the diehard toy fans of how it should be back in the comics or the cartoons. But the reality is, this is an excellent adaptation. And am I biased about this movie? Absolutely. I will admit it till the day I die. I will buy a ticket to any Transformers movie. I don't care how bad it is. I will be there. And I will support it because you know why? I want more Transformers. Just like the toys, I want more movies. And I cannot get enough. I will be behind every single door. Let's go. Transformers, I'm in the seat.
There you go. Jude, what about you? What are your overall thoughts on this movie?
I thought it was great. When I was a kid, I grew up watching all the cartoons, and then my dad first showed me the movie. I was like so pumped. I was like, what is this? It was like the first time I've ever saw anything like this. It was pretty awesome.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Jaden, what about you?
Pretty much everything Mr. Corey said, but I mean, when I was little, I just liked watching big robots blow stuff up. I'm going to be honest, but now that I'm older, I really do admire the entire franchise and just pretty much the beauty of it.
Nice. It's great. Big, dumb fun.
Big what?
It's stupid, but I love Michael Bay. Like I've said this on the show before. Like Armageddon is one of my favorite movies, and that's completely ridiculous. I mean, it's one of those movies that like NASA shows to their scientists to have them pick out all the things that are wrong with it, but I don't care. And I found a quote that I really liked. Roger Ebert actually gave the film 3 out of 4, and he said, "It's goofy fun with a lot of stuff that blows up real good, and it has the grace not to only realize how preposterous it is, but to make that into an asset." And I just love that quote because it knows what it is.
Yes.
And
now,
it completely works on that level.
I will say this. This movie in the beginning, being the first one through the gate, has a very different feel than all the others.
Yeah.
Right? But there's a lot of campy punchlines that are thrown out there. There's a lot of humor they throw into it, the little witty things and funny, awkward situations and moments that they do. But the point is to get people in there so that they're seeing it, but there's also some laughter. So I can see why Ebert said that, 3 out of 4, it's campy, it's fun. I think the CGI holds up well, even to standards. Yep. You watch 2007 and those transformations look amazing. The CGI looks amazing. And so it's great. The story is good. we'll talk more about that, but it's a great take to get the first franchise live action movie going. And so I think that helps. That helps, it's the first one, and that's always the most memorable one. And then as you get further along into the Bayverse, some of the designs and some of the styles and things, some people pick apart more, and some of the storylines, but I'm one of those people who likes the Bayverse. I've liked them all the way up to the last one. So
yeah, me too. So let's go ahead and jump into cinematography. So Jude, I'm going to start with you. What are some things that you liked for composition, color, camera work, those kind of things?
I just like the graphics at his time, because I've seen a bunch of movies that are never like up to its point, like during that time, and it's just kind of like different and very cinematically like good for its time and stuff. A lot of blowing up stuff and like a lot of screaming, I feel like, and loudness. It was really exciting. So that's what I liked about it.
If that doesn't scream Michael Bay, I don't know what else does.
Exactly.
Michael Bay is known for that.
Yeah. Jade, did you have anything that you wanted to point out for cinematography?
I think Jude pretty much covered what I had, but I think I'll add to camera work. It was a very shaky, very intense. So like that also added to the intensity of the action.
Yeah, it's kind of immersive with the shaky cam.
Yeah,
sure. Corey, what about you?
I think you notice there's a lot of times where there's some dark colors. There's apparently all government agencies have to have dark shadow lit rooms all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Big ginormous window screens that are see-through, so you can see what's going on in the other rooms with the cameras, even though it's a top secret government installation. They do those kinds of things. But I think there's the thing with the robots that you notice is that the Decepticons are very oily looking or diesely looking. They kind of have a rustic look to them, kind of patina on their metal. The Autobots are always shined and polished and scuffed up a little bit. You see where there's some scuffs every time they transform, but when they go back to the cars, they're shiny and they're polished and they're looking good. And so there's that composition and that contrast in the colors helps to set the good bad stage. Every one of the Decepticons was a flat color. Starscream's got the navy flat, for the jet. Bone Crusher had the military yellow for the sand color, and then the tank. The only one that was polished was Barricade with the police car, which looked beautiful. Absolutely. But no, they do that. They do that with that color and the contrast, bring that in. And then I also noticed with the cinematography more this time, when he goes to get Bumblebee, everything around there was yellow. The whole composition and the color of the saturation of all the things in there. The garbage can was yellow. The gas pumps were yellow. Everything was yellow. And so it was a little nod to throw that Bumblebee was coming.
Nice. For me, one of the things I really liked was when Blackout shows up on the base and he transforms and they pull away to like this really wide establishing shot. It's almost kind of jarring how he's kind of coming. He's like at the top left-hand corner. But it feels almost more documentary style. I felt like it kind of lend to the realism of that and the sense of scale too, because you have to see how huge he is. And they kind of repeat that same thing. I thought was interesting when Megatron is coming through the city at the end after he lands. It's very similar looking, where you just see the sense of scale, how big he is, and it's kind of a jarring look the way they've set that up. But it's not a close up. It's not a very, for lack of a better term, it's not a very cinematic shot. It's more, like I said, more documentary, more realistic, and therefore kind of jarring.
That whole opening scene with Blackout is absolutely incredible. Just the explosions, like you said, that camera angle, almost like a security camera on top of a building, looking that directly, and him just shooting everything, the planes and blowing up, and then when he sets off that little pulse and blows up everything, that little EMP pulse or whatever he does, it just really shows the scale of the Transformers and their weaponry. So
yeah. But overall, I mean, it's kind of like a signature Michael Bay film. It's got those pan around shots, those low angle pan arounds, where it kind of spins. The camera's almost constantly in motion in this film. There's hardly any like static shots other than like those ones like security camera. I love how you mentioned that. I like also that there's like when you first see Optimus Prime, like it's a super low angle looking up, and then they reverse it so it's a super high angle looking down at Sam and Michaela, where you really get a sense because he's clearly not there, but you feel like he is because the camera is the stand-in for him. And then there's just tons of Dutch angles through action sequences. It's just like there's so many things happening that it's really immersive, and it's kind of just fun to like, oh, I saw that. There's different stuff. It's hard to pick out one thing because there were so many things happening.
One of the things that I noticed was that there's a lot of quick camera changes that take place, especially in some of the scenes where conversations are going, there's cameras changing angles real fast. You get a 1 or 2 second camera, boom, you're on to the next angle, or it's a cutaway. And it's so fast sometimes. And then the sweeping shots, there's never a long filmed section of 20 seconds from one camera angle. You know, you probably have multiple cameras going at this time where you're doing multiple takes, but you don't get that long drawn out scene with one camera.
Yeah. And I'm looking at, when you mentioned that, I'm looking at, there's 3 editors on this film. I mean, that's a lot of stuff. And you got Paul Rubel, Glenn Scattleberry, and Thomas Muldoon, all guys who have worked with Michael Bay multiple times. So you're seeing things like The Island is one, but Paul Rubel worked on Thor and the Avengers, a couple of Fast and the Furious movies, Bumblebee, The Rock's on there, Armageddon. So these are guys who have worked with him, know that style. So it's like, he gives them this pile of shots and they just splice it together. But it's like, that's amazing how they did all that stuff.
Well, and that's where the other thing that stands out in the camera work is that during this, there's a lot of speeches, like like Secretary Keller's giving a speech about being hacked, and they flash to the helicopter out in the desert. And so you have these flashes of while someone's doing their 5 or 6 sentence line speech, you're getting camera flashes to here's the desert, here's this, and you get multiple scenes spliced in. So you're not even looking at the person who's acting. They're just a narrator over a scene,
right?
Camera flashbacks. And Michael Bay did that in Armageddon too. The scene that really stands out to me is when they're talking about getting trained for the little thing that they drive on the asteroid. And as they're talking and explaining NASA, there are all these flashbacks going around of the team getting together and doing all these things. And you know what I mean? And so that he does these flashbacks where someone's basically my line in acting that I just delivered. I'm in the first part of that shot and the last part of that shot. And the rest is all these cutaway scenes. I just narrated it.
Yeah. If you have a short attention span, this movie is for you.
I do. That's why
there you go. So sound, Jaden, I'm going to start with you. What kind of things did you notice for either sound effects, music, voiceover stuff? What did you notice?
Definitely, pretty sure it's called the shuffle effect when they're transforming. Is that what it's called?
That sounds good to me.
Yeah, I really like that. Really can't say anything else. I'm not a nerd like you guys. So
thanks.
I'm just going to say
wear that prize.
Sound was good. How the Autobots and Decepticons talked, it was technological, I guess.
Yeah. So the way they've processed it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I have.
Okay, Jude, I'm going to go to you next, and then I see your dad's ready to go, but I'm gonna skip him and come back. So, Jude, what do you have for sound?
Well, it was a lot of sound. There's like so much sound in this movie. It was like, I don't think there was ever a quiet time. There's a whole bunch of music going on, and one thing I've noticed a lot was like when Megatron transformed his big gun when he was fighting Optimus Prime. It sounded like it was gonna be a big boom, but it sounded like a squeaker toy, just like like it didn't even sound like it sounded like a small minigun, like a laser gun kind of sound. And then when Megatron threw Jazz down and like on the pillar, when he flew him up to the top of the building, when he threw him down on that pillar, it made like a squeak noise when he landed on him.
Like a cat toy. It really was obvious.
It was so like a weird squeaking noise, and that's what I've noticed throughout the movie and stuff.
There are a few sounds that just don't quite line up, and I totally agree that Megatron's gun is underpowered for what it should have been. But
well, keep going. What else you got?
I think the sounds and the effects I thought were great. The transformation sounds, we get the throwback to the G1 Autobot transformation sound as soon as Blackout transforms. when he stops his propellers and you hear the blade stop, there's that metal sound of just gears hitting, in the beginning. I had chills. It was just amazing because it just showed that rotor wasn't spinning like we have spinner motors, where they're just going. He's in complete control of those rotors. And so then he starts transforming, and I think the transformation sounds that Michael Bay has brought in are just amazing and recognizable now everywhere. Every transformation sound among all the movies, they get this metal clanging, very realistic sounding in what I would imagine it would sound like. And, but then there's also some things mixed in them sometimes where Optimus always has you hear his wheels spinning and then they have a different unique sound when they stop and lock. Bumblebee's is very clangy sounding. He's a little bit smaller than Optimus. And so his has a different clang sound. They're very unique, each transformation robot. Ratchet has some clicking that's going on with his all the time. Maybe I'm just too much of a fan that I notice these things. I don't know. But, and so it's very unique in all of those sound effects that they brought. It's not just a standard sound effect. It's that every single Autobot and every single Decepticon had their same transformation sound. And there's some whooshing sounds and things they add in the background that are always good. So, for me, it's everything I want it to be when it sounds like that. The only problem is I can't make that sound anymore, like I used to when I trained my robots when I was a kid. I was really good at transformation like that, but now it's too hard and too complex. But
nice. Well, I'm going to focus on the music because you guys covered effects pretty well. But Steve Jablonski did the score for this one. He's a guy who he trained under Hans Zimmer. And I love the fact that you hear a lot of that influence in this. Like, it reminded me a little bit of like the Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack. It's very big. It's there's this epic sound to the score. Mm-hmm. It's very motivational, very inspiring. But there's a ton of just pop music in this one as well. The one that just made me laugh this time was we went to Bobby Bolivia's car lot and there was like the Mexican music playing in the background. But of course, then we also have, Bumblebee's he's messing with Sam and trying to get him to help him out with Michaela when you hear who's going to drive you home and sexual healing, baby come back, multiple things, just dropped in there. And then of course you can't talk about the music in a Transformers movie without mentioning Linkin Park, who stretched out their 15 minutes a little bit with showing up on the end credits every time, this time with What I've Done, which is a good song, but it was like, and then every Transformers movie after that, I think they were on there.
What do you think of the music?
There was so much music. It was just like, everything was like, I don't know, only the times when there wasn't music is when there wasn't a time. It was like, there was always like action music or epic like music going on, like sound effects, background music of some kind. There's only like a few, maybe like not even close to like 1/10 of the movie wasn't filled with music. It was always music.
It helps build the set stage for some of the fight scenes and the action scenes to draw the emotion in.
Yeah. And I should mention too, it was nominated for two Oscars, for best sound editing and for best sound mixing. Lost both to the Bourne Ultimatum. Say what you will about that. But yeah, I think we all basically feel that the sound is one of the absolute strengths of this film. And I love what you mentioned with the transforming sounds. Like, that's so deliberate and so well thought out.
Well, and the Paramount, now the intro for Paramount, when they do their stars and stuff that come across the lake and go over the volcano, that's their intro. In a Transformer movie, they use the transformation sounds. They're not doing just a sound anymore. So the stars are flying and it's got that robotic sound to it. That's how you know it's a Transformers movie.
There you go. Right away.
I will say this, Linkin Park, What I've Done, absolutely fantastic. I love that song. I think it's a great one. At that time, I've listened to that multiple times. The two songs that really get me in this movie that I know it's Transformers. Number one, Bumblebee's transformation to a fine Camaro finally.
Yes.
Plays The Battle Without Honor or Humanity.
Thank you.
It's written and performed by Tomoyasu Hotei. And that sound, that song is epic. I have that on my iTunes. And for a while, that was my alarm waking up because it was so amazing. I love that song.
Yeah, good one.
And it's a great intro, especially for Bumblebee coming in all sweet, looking good after he was insulted. And then the Autobots' arrival to the Earth song is just an epic build of Heroes' arrival. And that song is really just incredible. And I've had that for my wake up on my alarm for a while too. So.
Nice. Well, we've come to the part of the show where we talk about performance, and we start with dialogue. So, Jude, you're going to get first crack. You have a favorite line? We'll do it two. We'll start with one. You have a favorite line of dialogue from this film?
My favorite line was when Optimus Prime says, "I am Optimus Prime." I thought it was just very epic and deep voice sounding, and it's really awesome. That was my favorite part of that was my favorite dialogue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's Peter Cullen. So it's like, for those of us that grew up with the cartoon, hearing him say that, it's pretty epic.
There is no other Optimus Prime. I mean, You can replace him, but it does not come off as it is Peter Cullen. And that's the staple of the community right there.
Yeah. Jaden, you got a favorite line or one of them?
I got a whole section of dialogue. The part where Sam's dad takes him to go buy a car and he drives by the Porsche. That was probably, in my opinion, the most hilarious part in the whole movie. It was so horrible, but it was pretty freaking hilarious.
You're gonna buy me a Porsche, Dad? No. Yeah. Jude, same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Corey, you got a line that you want to point out?
So I'm gonna piggyback on that, Jaden. So as Sam gets into his Camaro for the first time, and then he goes to drive off to the party to meet Michaela. The car and Bumblebee just starts making smoke everywhere, and his mom looks at the husband and says, "You are so cheap." And he goes, "It's his first car. It's supposed to be like that."
Nice.
And it was so great because you realize Bumblebee has this engine that Michaela opens up and is so impressed with. Looks stunning, showroom quality. Why would this Transformer need to smoke like that when he's, pulling out of the driveway?
Yeah.
Everything is a show. He has to put on the image of he's a car. And anyway, it just is. I just love that whole line, that whole scene.
It is pretty great. I had that one too. I'm going to go with Bobby Bolivia saying, "A driver don't pick the car picks the driver. It's a mystical bond between man and machine," which he says is a joke, but it's true, which is, I love that there's two meanings to that. He says that it's a sales pitch, but that's actually one of the central themes of the movie.
Sam quotes him back to that. Back to him when he says, "No, I want this car." Says,
yes.
You said the cars pick the driver, and he goes, "Yeah, but sometimes they pick the cars pick the cheap ass fathers."
Yes, it's beautiful. Jude, did you have another line that you wanted to share?
Another one was when Optimus Prime says, "One shall stand and one shall fall." I like that one a lot. It's pretty epic too.
Yeah.
Another really deep voiced, awesome cinematic, or not cinematic, voice effects going on and stuff right there. And
now, for those of us who have been fans for a long time, that's a throwback because Optimus Prime said that to Megatron in the cartoon. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
it's a nod to the history and the beauty of Transformers.
Jaden, did you have another line that you like?
There are so many lines to pick from. I can't think of another one. I'm going to be honest with. No.
All right. I'm gonna say a funny one. When the Autobots are crashing to the Earth, the kid says, "Wow, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Explosions everywhere. This is easily 100 times cooler than Armageddon. I swear to God." Which is a brilliant meta reference to another Michael Bay film, and I just love that he takes a shot at himself.
I wrote that exact one down, Craig, because I was like, "This is this just referenced Armageddon, who Michael Bay, the director, directed back then." Oh, it was great. All right, I'm going to throw out the part where Sam and Michaela are riding in Bumblebee, and he's in the old Camaro, and then she says, he just doesn't look good. He stops, kicks them out, and then Sam says, Now you pissed him off. That car is sensitive. $4,000 just drove off. I just love it. He's so focused on it. It's $4,000. This robot just had a death match. We just watched him transform. That's $4,000. Just drove off like that.
Awesome. Any other lines we got to talk about before we move down to body language, facial expressions, and costumes?
I'm gonna throw out another one. This one's more the meta. This is a great line, I think, to imply. I'm always looking for meaning in movies. So when after they watch the Barricade Bumblebee fight where Sam says, 50 years from now, when you look back on your life, don't you want to say that you had the guts to get in the car?
Yeah.
And it is an amazing line. And I think sometimes looking at things in our perspective when we're adults versus our sons who are, young kids is so true that you always look back at your life and say, man, I wish I had the guts. I would have done it. I would have done this. I would have done that. And there are powerful moments like that you have to look back and say, did you have the guts to get in the car? And there's a payoff. Craig, you've always turned me to that payoff comment. Michaela says at one point during the final battle, she says, I'm really glad I got in that car. So there's a payoff for that comment to come back later.
Yeah, and watching it on this time, I'd forgotten how well this movie strikes a balance between just, again, big dumb fun, but also kind of having those inspirational moments where you're like, yeah, there actually is a bigger theme that's going on here, and you can watch it at that level too. So there's they're not just goofy. There is some legitimate sincerity and earnestness to this film.
Yeah, and I'm gonna point out this. This is a good point for me to point out here is. I read when I saw this movie, I was so excited for it. I read the book, the screenplay novelization by Alan Dean Foster. He wrote. He writes a lot of novelizations for films, and so I saw it at the store one time, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's the movie that's coming out in a month." Grabbed it. I read that in a weekend because I was so excited. And you know what? It's so true because you always have people who say the movies are better than the books, or the books are better than the movies. And I think this is one of those movies that showed it to me where I read this novelization, it followed the movie, but there were so many things that in the novelization that are not in the movie. But you also get that inside what they're thinking when they're doing things. I had Starscream's inner thoughts, Megatron's inner thoughts, things they were mad about, frustrated about, like Optimus's inner thoughts, all these thoughts. So then when I'm watching the movie, it's so much more powerful for me because I'm looking at it and I know what Starscream was thinking here. I know what Megatron was thinking. I know what Optimus was thinking. I know what Sam's thinking here. And it's so great. And so I think it's not the movie's better than the book or the book's better than the movie. I think it's the two together. For people who are real fans, you just love it and you see why people get so passionate about it.
Nice. Yeah, Alan Dean Foster, he wrote the Star Wars novelization among many others. So that's a big get for them to have.
Yeah, he's a couple of them. And so he's, and I see his name on a lot of novelizations. And so now when I go see some movies that I really like, I'll grab a novelization by the movie and I'll read it beforehand. And yes, how the movie's going to go. And, that's, some people think that's erroneous, but I think when you watch the movie after knowing what they're thinking, it's so much more incredible.
Yeah. It also made me think really quick, and I probably should have brought this up earlier, but the Alan Dean Foster, the Star Wars connection made me think that, Steven Spielberg is an exec producer on this. He's the one that hired Michael Bay. So I think that also lends some of the credibility to this movie, right? That it's a Spielberg movie in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the reasons it holds up so well. It's got that classic, alien and the kid thing too. There's a little bit of ET in this. I did want to talk about body language. There was a couple things that I really liked. I've always enjoyed the scene where Sam is flexing his bicep to point to things in the car. Because it's like he's self-aware. He knows that he's a goofball, but he's also kind of going for it at the same time. So,
and Shia LaBeouf is in this movie. He's a tremendous actor. Like this is kind of his breakout role for what he's known for, But I realized watching it this time, he's just a salesman in the classroom. He's just a quick talking, fast talking, smirk, comments, sarcasms that are delivered so well. When he's talking to his dad as he's getting in trouble and the Autobots are all in the backyard destroying the yard and he won't let his dad come out. He's talking to him so fast. It's almost like a mini Vince Vaughn kind of thing. Like just the way he stammers and talks through things over
Yeah.
and over and throws out witty comments super quick. And I think that's what sells him to be that perfect high school kid for this movie.
Yeah. Sleep well, handsome man. That whole bit. I'm a child. I'm filthy. Yeah, that was the main thing I had for that one. And then for costumes, hair, and makeup, I mean, it's really like the authenticity. I mean, anytime it's Michael Bay, you know that the military aspect is going to be super authentic because he gets participation from them. So the uniforms, absolutely. But I also really like Agent Simmons' clip-on tie. He has that scene where he has to take off his clothes. He has a clip-on tie, which is just what a great character moment for him. And then, of course, he has like the Section 7 T-shirt on underneath. He's,
role. He is still incredible in the whole thing. And I think he gets washed out later in the series too much.
Yeah.
He needed to be a bigger role in all of this.
Yeah, I always forget that he's in this.
Yeah.
And he has that balance between being like deadly serious and comedic. He fits that pretty well. All right. Setting and design. The one thing that I really liked about this one was they had a product placement deal with General Motors, which I remember first time I watched this, I was a little disappointed that some of the I think is it Jazz? That's not the same. Like there's a GM version of it's not a Porsche. Like he's a GM version of that. It's Jazz, right? That's the Porsche.
Jazz is the Porsche,
but he's not a Porsche in this. He's something.
No, it's a Sun. I used to know what it is. It's a Sunstar. So I can't. I can't remember.
Yeah, but it's meant to be evocative of the like you mentioned the G1 forms. But yeah, nearly 200 cars in this film. Most of them flood damaged, of course. And then you have things like F-22s, F-117s, V-22 Ospreys, A-10 Thunderbolts, Lockheed AC-130s. There's tons of military aircraft in this as well.
Michael Bay likes to highlight those. He really likes to showcase that the military aspect and what that they can do with some of those weapons. Like when that gunship turns to fire on Scorponok, the Scorpion in the desert.
Yeah.
And I remember when this came out, there was things about, yes, gunships can really do that, where they pivot sideways and just fire the rounds and they could keep them on spot where they needed to be. That was 2007 that they were doing that. So Michael Bay does a good job of highlighting those types of things.
Yeah. One thing I like about this a lot too, I don't know if you guys paid much attention to this, but a lot of it's filmed on location. Like there's not a lot of green screen in this. Obviously the Autobots and the Decepticons are CGI, but like it's filmed in Air Force Base in New Mexico, which stands in for Qatar, Holloman Air Force Base. It's filmed at the Hoover Dam, at the Pentagon, Hughes Aircraft, Playa Vista. The Universal Studios backlot is for some of it. Most of it's on location, which I think is cool. And that's one of the reasons that he is as fantastic as this movie is, as out of world this is, that it feels kind of grounded because it's on real locations.
Except Mission City.
Yeah.
Mission City is a false city. It's like
Gotham.
It's there.
Except for that.
Or Metropolis. It's, and so I always like that they got Hoover Dam. We've got everything the same. And then we got to get to Mission City, and I was like, Mission City, where's that?
Can't find that
by
one.
Vegas. So, but they do a great job. I absolutely love it. And I agree. I think not doing some of the green screen, I think, really adds to this movie. And maybe that's why it holds up so well. Iron Man was filmed around this time and it holds up so well too.
Yeah.
Did they do a lot of green screen on Iron Man? I don't know, but they had a lot of CGI similar to this that has held up so well.
For set decoration, Sam's room, I think, is fascinating.
Yeah.
Did you notice anything about Sam's room, Jaden?
It was a complete mess.
Well, yeah. But he's got there's lockers in there and just tons of posters, and it's an old bathtub for some reason.
I did notice that.
He's got weird.
Because his dad hides in there at one point when he thinks it's an earthquake.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting thing. And one thing I really like too is I'm just going to call it the cube radiation box.
Yeah.
Where they zap, what is it, the little phone, and then it transforms. it feels very Frankenstein in that room with the lighting and like the tube sticking out of the box.
Now,
It's
this
love
is
it.
where the book comes in here, Craig, is because Agent Simmons, the part where they make the joke in there about the claws on the wall, and he says, "Oh, there's only 3 claws." He goes, "That's Wolverine, right?" And they make the
Yeah.
joke, and Agent Simmons, kind of in an angry tone, makes a comment to them. Now, in the book, in the novelization by Alan Dean Foster, is it Agent Simmons is reminiscing through that scene that before they put the box in there, some of these Transformers that they did this to, that they turned into Transformers, killed people that he worked with. And so he remembers those claw marks being made because he lost fellow troopers in there, with that Transformer that came alive. So again, see, sometimes the book adds to the narration of the movie.
Reading is good, kids. See?
I'm just telling you.
So I had some ideas for props, but I wanted to give you guys a chance to talk with us. Jude, did you have any props that you thought were interesting that you liked, like handheld stuff?
I'm not sure. There was a few things. I'm trying to think. I think the cube was one prop that was pretty big part of the story.
Sure.
Probably the biggest part of this movie. So, in the movie started the franchise and everything going on. I think that was pretty prop that I noticed.
Yeah, that's as we like to call it, Corey, a MacGuffin.
A MacGuffin.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, it is. I absolutely love how it transforms, how Bumblebee transforms the cube. And everybody watches this just shrink it down into this small box that they can carry. Here it was this ginormous thing taking up a third of Hoover Dam. But a couple of the props that I liked, I think the weapons I think that they use for the high heat saber rounds and stuff like that, I think those are nice ways to kind of show the military's props, how they use to try and fight them. And our weapons have to we have to step up a notch. We can't just use just a regular weapon to.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Jade, did you have one?
The glasses that they frequently go back to.
Sam Witwicky's glasses?
Yeah.
Yes.
The ones
Or
that-
Archibald Witwicky's.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's pretty important.
He says he has seen our language because it's got the Transformer symbols on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that jumped out to me this time too was the memory card. It's like a 2 gigabyte memory card, which felt really big at the time, but that's one of the things that felt kind of dated. I'm like, where is it? Because I had to pause and I'm like, does it only say 2 gigs?
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Let's
Because
go
like
back to a floppy disk. Yeah. Goodness gracious.
that's good stuff. For characters, unless you guys have anything else for set decoration or anything, I think we're transitioning.
No, I would add that I absolutely love when she goes to Glenn's house and Glenn's house. They've got the dance game on there.
Yep.
And then the FBI busts in and he's tackled in the pool and just that whole thing. And then with Glenn to highlight the prop, the donut prop that they throw in there, creates a tremendous scene for him where he's so confident. They put the donuts out there to test your guilt. So I ate the whole plate. The whole plate.
Yeah.
And so then as soon as they drop the file, she did it. She's the one you want. Like just it creates a great scene, where you go immediately from he's this ultimate hacker to here he's in there and he thinks he's got the upper hand to automatically he's selling her out and that whole scene with him is incredible. And just from a plate of donuts.
Yeah. That's a good character beat tied to the props for sure.
Yeah.
I'm just looking down the list of the characters that we haven't talked about yet. And I really just want to call out first. I want to call it Kevin Dunn and Julie White, who play Ron and Judy Witwicky, because they are just pitch perfect in this. And like it makes sense that Sam is the way he is.
Yes.
Because of the way they are. They are just hilarious. And most of the time I'm like, I could almost just do without any humans, but those people are funny. And they're not she's a lot more nuts in the second movie. They play that up a little bit too much, I think, in the second movie. But in this movie, I think there's just the right amount.
I feel like when you're mentioning the parents of Sam Witwicky, I think the post-credit scene was very funny with them, and it was really funny. It was really hilarious. I really liked that. It was pretty funny.
Oh, they were. Oh no. If there were aliens, the government would tell us. That's their job. There's no secrets. Playing along with it.
Yeah. We didn't talk about Therese Gibson playing Epps. He's pretty great in this too. Like the whole unit, the whole army unit at the beginning, like all those guys, I just love their interactions. Like the one guy just keeps speaking in Spanish, like, English, dude. We don't speak Spanish. I just love that camaraderie they all have. Josh Duhamel, of course.
Josh Duhamel, I think, is a great addition. He's great through the whole thing. Epps was good. I really liked him, but Josh Duhamel, I thought they built more on his character than they did on Epps.
Yeah.
So I liked him. The girl, I thought, was an interesting one, the analyst, that they never brought her back. I mean, she's in this one. They write off Megan Fox later, and they bring in some new girl for Sam. But I always thought,
Rachel Taylor,
would have been a great one to have kept around in the franchise. But
yeah, I mean, she makes a name for herself a little bit later on. She's in Jessica Jones, all 3 seasons of that, and I know she's been in some other stuff. But I don't know, maybe she got too big for a smaller part or whatever. I'm not sure. I love John Voight. Just about everything that he's in, he's great in this too. He's very
macho,
he's very dry in places.
Has that presence with himself the whole time. But again, I'm a fan of Agent Simmons. I think he's great. I love him and Keller's interaction. So I like how they take on Frenzy, and that's pretty good.
Yeah, I also want to shout out, because I had to look up his name, Michael O'Neill, who plays Tom Banachek. He's the one who has his ridiculous government salary, the guy who's like actually in charge of Sector 7. I just love that scene with him. Like, he's in so many things. Like, we're rewatching The West Wing right now, and he's in that. He plays a Secret Service guy. And he's a guy you've seen in 100 things, and he's just always solid in everything that he's in. It just feels there's a gravitas to him. You know, you can tell he's in charge. He knows what's going on.
Hugo Weaving is Megatron.
Yes. How do you feel about Hugo Weaving instead of Frank Welker for that?
Frank Welker. Hugo Weaving, Megatron's voice, it can't match what the cartoon was. It's not fitting for that, especially, giant robotic organism. So it's got to be dark. It's got to be that bass, dark, sinister voice. And Hugo Weaving is, in 2007, Hugo Weaving is the guy you bring in for that role. And, Frank Welker is the legend of Megatron. And it just has to match in that moment the realism and the power of Optimus Prime, Peter Cullen's voice. You have the exact mirror with Hugo Weaving. Those two voices are iconic in that moment. So it fit. I felt bad because, Frank Welker was the guy, you got in Peter Cullen, you got to get Frank Welker, but
yeah. And he comes back later, he's in the later movies, but Hugo Weaving, it's so heavily processed. Like, it's not instantly recognizable either. I think if it would have sounded like Agent Smith, I would have probably been pretty irritated, but
yeah, it
doesn't. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of great voice actors in this. I'm not going to list all of them. But I did. Oh, yeah, Glenn Morshower's in this. He's always great. As Colonel Sharp. The Hero's Journey. And now you sent me something earlier today, so I know you're ready for Hero's Journey, Corey. So I'm going to just sit back and learn from you.
Now, listen, Sam gets the Hero's Journey through the franchise. He does not get it through this movie. This movie is the initial call to action for Sam Witwicky. This movie does not have the death of the mentor. That comes in Dark of the Moon. So you look at Sam's Hero's Journey, it's over a multi-movie deal with this one. It's Optimus dying, and then he rises to the battle, goes through his dark times in Dark of the Moon, and then in Revenge of the Fallen, and then brings back Optimus, right? And so that's his rising part. That's his culmination of who he is. So I think Sam's Hero's Journey is a different take because it's over multiple movies. Different than we get with some of these where the hero's journey occurs within the movie or within one tale. And so that's the hard part. That's the struggle that I have with this. We want to talk about Transformers 2007. We're not going to quite see his full immersion of his hero's journey, but we're going to see his call to action, his selection, He was destined, and then his call to action, and he's involved in this initial war. And then it's the second one where now we see he was chosen, he was picked, why he had that supernatural picking. So it was always his destiny, as they say, as the Fallen say.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, you even have in Revenge of the Fallen, you even have the apotheosis where he dies and comes back. So it really does. You get all the 3 movies. You kind of get the whole arc.
Yeah. Now, I mean, in the hero's journey on this, I mean, is Sam the main hero? I mean, I know he's the protagonist, but is one of the Autobots? I mean, Bumblebee is the one that's in every single one of these movies and lives through every single one of these movies. So is Bumblebee the one? He's the one who maybe because this is my thought, maybe Bumblebee is the hero that we're looking at because he goes back and gets this Bumblebee second movie, the Bumblebee movie, which is great. And then Rise of the Beast, which is a continuation of that. So maybe Bumblebee's the hero's journey. He watches Optimus Prime die. That's his mentor and his buddy. And he's watches Sam die at that one point in Revenge of the Fallen. And, and so perhaps Bumblebee is the hero that we're looking at. So I don't know. There's a lot of questions you could ask as far as hero's journey, what the focus is the human, the character, or is the Transformers the character to consider?
Yeah. And, I would even push back a little bit on Sam Witwicky being the protagonist. I think ultimately he is, but this movie has so many characters in it. I mean, you even have Captain Lennox, like Josh Duhamel's character he's got a parallel story going too, where you kind of have all these different narratives that are equally important.
Yep.
Which I think is fascinating that there's not just the one central, and they could have done it that way. It's interesting that they have all of these different things happening at the same time. I have certain scenes with just the Autobots are doing their things separate from the humans. So
that's the complexity of this movie. I'm going to tell you, there's 4 main things you have going on. You've got the Autobots and the Decepticons going. You got Sam and Michaela's story going. You have these analysts who are involved. And then you have Sector 7 and the agents and all of that taking place, right? And so you have these 4 things going at one time. And it's very hard to pull that off. There's 4, those 4 human elements, and then Autobots and Decepticons doing that too, to give everything screen time. Michael Bay does a great job with it. I think that's why you get a lot of those narrations of the scenes where they're cutting scenes back and forth, and while they're narrating your scene, what's taking place.
Right.
I see that's why he does that, but it something has to be left behind when you do that. You can only fill up so much screen time. And so I think sometimes some of the Decepticons did not get their screen time. For example, Starscream never got his screen time in this one that he deserved, especially being the second in the command, the loved and hated character of Starscream and Megatron's "You fail me yet again, Starscream." Like, we need some buildup. Why? What's that going on? I mean, I know from the cartoon why that's there.
Right.
And I can tell you because I know from the novelization by Alan Dean Foster that is Starscream. There's a point in there where Starscream, Sam has the cube on top of the building, and Starscream, you go to his inner thoughts, and he's trying to get to that cube before Megatron. He did not want Megatron to get the cube. And so he's going after it and trying to figure out, how can I get there before Megatron? And then I become the one who's in charge. Then I become, which is exactly Starscream's character from the stories. Yeah. And so you get that in the book, and then but that you can't put that in the screen. You can't write that as well. And so instead you just see Starscream off to the side clutching onto the building. And I always thought it would have been great to add that in there somewhere if we could have saw the manipulation of Starscream brought into that film. But it's hard to do that. Can't do everything.
No. And I would just kind of, to build off that, I'd head into world building a little bit. And because if there is a criticism I have of this film, it's that some of the Autobots are kind of not all just Autobots, but the Decepticons as well are kind of underdeveloped. I would have liked to have seen, and I know you can't do everything. And you and I have talked off air too about, like, let's just not have any human characters in this at all. Because I do kind of want to see the politics of the Decepticons. And yeah, because Starscream is continually trying to betray Megatron and then backing off, all that stuff. And it's hard to keep track of who all of the Autobots are I'm sure you're not having a problem because you know these characters so well, but especially during that last battle, like, I have a hard time keeping track of everything that's going on simply because I don't identify who the characters are. I'm not invested in them other than Bumblebee.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I can, there's a guy with a helicopter. That's the bad guy. I remember him from earlier, but I can get it for most of it. But every time I'm like, I lose a little bit of what's going on just because they're not super clearly defined.
Yeah.
And if we could have spent more time with that, then maybe that works a little better.
The two that we do see, I will say in the film, there's several in that last battle. There are some excellent jobs they did with those Transformers. Bumblebee getting blown up and losing his legs early on in the battle absolutely made me mad. And then because I was like, gosh dang it, you gave the favorite that everybody loves, you gave him no voice, right? And that drives me crazy. And he still never gets a good voice throughout this whole series. I'm like, come on, just let the guy talk. And then but I will tell you, Ironhide blowing the street up so that he can stay over top and not crush the human girl that's screaming fly over top of her is absolutely stunning to watch that. I mean, the first time I saw that, I had that rewound and watched several times, all the time. Starscream fighting the fighter jets and blowing them up.
That's cool.
Then taking a swipe at one of the jets and missing and showing that even he has to, his timing and aerodynamics has to be, he falls under the same rules. He can't just do everything, right? So he swings at a jet and misses, which was great, and then Jazz going up and taking that tank off, taking the arm off the tank with Ratchet where they attack the Brawl and they get him to transform. And that, I mean, I think the scene does a great job building the Transformers and getting you excited in there. But it's like, I would love to have seen more of that somewhere. And I think that's where you go back and you give us a movie with no humans. Go back. Give me a movie like the first 10 minutes of the Bumblebee movie. The first 10 minutes of that movie.
So good. Yeah.
Cinematic masterpiece. Give me an entire movie of that. Humans only bog the story down. Let's go back and do that.
There you go. All right, let's go ahead and move down to final thoughts. We've kind of transitioned to that already. Jude, I'm going to start with you. Haven't heard from you for a little bit, so I don't want to hog it too much. Jude, why don't you let us know, what are your final thoughts on this Transformers movie?
I feel like it was overall pretty awesome, and I think it was like awesome, and it was just a solid story, and it was just like it made like it was a good movie to like set up a whole story in front of it, and it just made a solid plot starting and everything. It was a pretty amazing movie for many sections and categories for movie things and story plot.
Cool. Jade, what about you? Final thoughts?
Okay, I probably should have said this earlier, but the whole scene where like the Autobots are hiding in Sam's front yard with the fountain. I used to like that scene when I was younger because it was funny, but looking back at it now, I'm getting the clumsy giant feeling with all of them, and I never really liked that feeling. When like you're watching these really cool characters who are like, and pardon my French, but totally badass, and like they're just walking around, breaking stuff accidentally, and like, ooh, my bad, and all that crap. Sorry, but
that's fine.
Never really liked that because I totally admire all of them, and I just don't like seeing them walk and look around like they're total morons.
It's fair. Anything else you want to say about the movie?
Okay, positives. It is a really fun movie to watch, and like Jude said, it does an excellent job setting up for the next movies that come after this.
All right. Corey, your final thoughts.
This movie this is up there with me for Shazam, Batman vs. Superman. This is one of my top movies. I love this franchise. And I think here's the thing. It's a great movie. I love it. Are there flaws? Yes. Is the CGI great? Yes, it absolutely is. Are there some great things in it and dialogue? Yes, absolutely. But this is the point of a franchise and a fan. I absolutely love it. I'm on board with it every time. I'm going to be there. There's always that toxic element that says, and it happens in Star Wars universe, it happens in Star Trek universe, happens in any universe that we have, any franchise. There's always people that say, it's not close enough to the comics. You deviated from the comic stories. You rewrote some of the canon things. And while that's true and it does happen, there's things that are comics, things that are cartoons, and things that are early 80s franchise that have to be deviated from a little bit because it's a modern story. It's a modern tale. And to take something from a cartoon and move it into real life with CGI, you have to bring some elements in there that are a little bit more realistic and a little bit more imaginative and modern for how we could tell that tale. And so I think with this is a perfect beginning for me to love it. I will always love every Transformer. I will make sure they get my money so they'll keep making more. I'll even support the toys that I have in my classroom. So, I mean, I'm just saying I'm a fan. I'm a fan and I love it. I think it's great. I love what Michael Bay did with it. I love what the new Bumblebees are doing. The Bumblebee series is. I don't know how they're going to tie it all together. I can see them trying to do that. But I think sometimes it's okay to say we're just in an alternate parallel, universe and this is Earth 90 and we can do that. We can do what we want here. But I think I am so looking forward to Transformers Rise of the Beasts. This movie just gets me excited to go see that movie coming out. The designs and the new rewrites and the reimagining of some of these transformations is so much better, even though for kids it's too hard for them to transform those toys. But that's the big complaint. It was too hard to transform the toys. But for us fans who love them, they're screen accurate and they look beautiful. So I think Michael Bay absolutely nailed it with this movie. And it's a great start in reviving the series.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it before. That film knows what it is, and I really appreciate that. Like, it doesn't try and be something that it's not. And as much as it did change certain things. Like, it bugged me out a little bit that Optimus was not the exact same type of semi-truck that he was in the cartoon. That did bug me at first. But overall, it feels like Transformers. It felt like the cartoon when I was a kid. And I think most hardcore Transformers fans from the 80s, about our age, probably really enjoyed this film for what it is and don't care because it's close enough. Like, it didn't try and reinvent itself into something else, didn't try and push a message of some kind. It was literally like, this is just going to be big, huge robots punching the crap out of each other. That's what we wanted to go see. That's the story you gave us. And we're happy with that. So bring on the next one because I'm there too. Let's do it.
Opening night, I'm there. And, I will say for my plug for the Hasbro toys, they need to step up their toys. The toys have fallen off a little bit. Because they were too difficult for people to transform, they've dropped them a little bit.
There's like 10-step Transformers. It's like really annoying.
Yeah, and they're not as
40-step type ones and 30, 40 type step. Those big Transformers that take a while to transform, those are pretty awesome. They're more detailed and stuff, and
they're way more screen accurate and better, and they look beautiful. But people are like, "Oh, they're too hard to transform." But it's like a puzzle. It's like a Rubik's cube, right? Mm-hmm. If you're a fan, you love it.
So what I'm hearing you say, Corey, is that you wouldn't mind being sponsored by Hasbro, so they could send us some toys, and then you could do demos. Like,
I'm telling you right now,
make videos, and we'll post it to our YouTube page.
I would have reviews. I would have review videos. I'll show you. Oh, let's compare it with this one. Let's take a look. Let's transform it. Let's have some. I'd give up my job and just go do that.
We're open, Hasbro. Give us a call. Voicemail. Email us. There you go. So we're going to go ahead and close the show, guys. We just want to say thank you so much for listening tonight. If you'd like to connect with us, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook. Email us at readingbetweenreels@gmail.com or use the SpeakPipe app on our website. If you enjoyed the show, please tell a friend. Support us by writing a review on your favorite podcast catcher. We're everywhere you listen to podcasts. You can find us very easily. And as you know, today we're giving one lucky listener a digital copy of Mission Impossible 3. All you had to do to enter was leave us a voicemail using the SpeakPipe app. And I have a voicemail to play.
Hey guys, Aaron Harris here. Hope y'all are doing well. Love the show. Love what you're doing with it. Mission Impossible series was incredible. And I really, really enjoyed the movies. Still got to see the new one. Haven't seen the newest one yet, but love them. 3 was absolutely awesome. So hope y'all are doing well. Keep up the excellent reviews. Y'all are the best. May the force be with you.
All right. That was from our good friend Aaron Harris of Star Wars Reactions. Great guy. He's the winner. So Aaron, make sure you check your email. We'll be sending out that code for the digital copy. And for our next episode, we're going to be giving away another digital copy, this time of Mission Impossible 4 Ghost Protocol. All you had to do to enter...
Aaron, just
Yes.
so you know, that video copy will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
It might. So we have a new giveaway, Ghost Protocol. All you got to do this time is follow us on Instagram and like and comment on the Instagram contest announcement post. So we're going to post that coming up here when this episode releases. Look for that announcement post on Instagram. Follow us, like that, and comment on that post, and that's how you enter. The winner will be announced on the next episode of Reading Between the Reels. And one more thing. We've been waiting for this episode for a while. Our next episode. Corey, do you know what we're doing for our next episode?
What is it?
Zack Snyder's Justice League.
I'm on board, baby. I'm all in.
Yes, with special guest Anthony King of Force Ghost Conversations. He's coming back. I've talked to him recently. He said he's already in the waiting room, so we got to get going. The whole thing, the 4-hour version. We're going to be talking about that.
You're darn right we are.
Yep, and Justin will be back for that one. We missed him tonight. So send us an email or voicemail about your favorite moments from Zack Snyder's Justice League, and we'll share it on the next episode.